Well, getting government organizations ready to adopt consumer mobile platforms in their enterprise information systems has a lot of challenging variables. They need to prepare their infrastructure. They need to understand what mission applications they're going to pilot first and so on. So we're doing several things, mostly around helping them devise and design the plans associated with how they get that infrastructure ready, as well as application development and mobile application development, but it's really not just about the mobile applications, it's about prepping the whole information system to be ready to share its information with a mobile platform and across that whole spectrum. So we're working in all of the parts of the federal government to enable those kind of solutions. My sense is the primary hurdle is around the inertia that is associated with the change required to adopt a new platform like this. And maybe that's the best two examples of that are around getting organizations in the federal government to understand what it means to adopt consumer devices, the devices that were not built with the government in mind, but the fact that they were built for the consumers is why they're so good and so cheap. And so how do you get a government that is accustomed to having technology tailored for them to adopt technology that wasn't built with them in mind? And how do you get them to do that change? And so that's one important thing. The other is really a lot about security, where that's the main fear that government organizations have about sharing their enterprise data with their mobile workforce. How do they protect that data while it's in transit or while it's on the devices? And if they can't rely on someone else to tell them, oh, it's secure, here's the checkbox that says if it meets this standard, then it is secure, then they got to figure out security on their own, and that's a dicey proposition and a daunting task. And so I think once people get comfortable with our ability to secure the platforms, and they get comfortable with changing to meet what the platforms do rather than expecting the platforms to change to meet them, then the sky's the limit on how innovative they'll be in applying the devices in government. There are two things that maybe are going to sound contradictory, but they're moving very fast and yet they're taking their time. And I'm encouraged to see how quickly government leadership is setting a vision or a set of expectations for how mobile devices will be exploited inside government. So that momentum is encouraging. At the same time, though, they're not rushing in and buying tens of thousands of devices and shipping them out and hoping they figured out how to keep the data secure. They are doing pilots, focused pilots. They're testing various kinds of information access. They're testing the management infrastructures for managing these devices and so on. So as governments do that and the leadership is setting a vision and the IT organizations are creating a plan and executing to that plan in a deliberative but iterative way, that's been positive. The other bit is they're going into it. Maybe this is an artifact of how quickly it's all been happening, but they're going into it with some sense that they've got to get it right the first time. This is a toothpaste you can't put back in the tube, once they get these devices out there or they set expectations high or some information leaks out of their infrastructure. And so they are being deliberate in their architectures and concerns for security policies and so on. And so I think that's healthy. Well, there are a couple things. The first way is going to be most likely focused on the business use of mobility. That means email, calendar, web, the stuff that today, they've already embraced mobility. I mean, the platform is predominantly BlackBerry inside the government, where they are doing messaging and calendar and stuff like that. What that platform hasn't offered them is enough flexibility to build more mission-oriented applications and so on. So what they're now investigating is, can they use these other open's the wrong word, but more robust and fancy smart platforms based on iOS or based on Android or based on Win Mobile or whatever. And so can they use those to serve this first business need, email calendar? And that's probably a lot of the way organizations are going to put their foot in the water to understand security and how do I buy these devices, and what happens when somebody buys Angry Birds for their government iPhone from the iTunes store, who paid for it, who owns it, whatever. A lot of those kind of things will get resolved. Similarly, we're seeing an increasing number of pilots of mission apps. A lot around things like field inspection, where the government inspects a lot of stuff, right? They've got inspecting planes, and they're inspecting chicken farms, and they're inspecting pharmaceutical, they're inspecting people who come into the country, they're inspecting a lot. And mobily enabling those field inspectors is one sort of domain of applications that we get a lot of requests for testing, piloting, implementing, so on. So I think there'll be a domain of those kind of apps that happen early. Field inspection, secure briefing books for executives to have more sensitive data with them, things like that. So those pilots will continue to emerge over the next 6, 12, 18 months as we start to see some of them blossom into real systems that get deployed against enterprise data. So I think it's going to really start though with more of that business case. We see that already, that a lot of organizations are saying, okay, now if in lieu of a BlackBerry, you can have an iPhone for email and calendar or whatever.